Hey everyone, I'm super stoked to show you how to use Ozone 12's new mastering tools. This is the most advanced and exciting mastering platform that iZotope's ever built, and I'm really honored to be able to show it to you. It's fully loaded with new modules and features, and I'm going to walk you through every single one. I'll show you the optimal workflow to get results fast, highlighting best practices along the way, and I'll reveal what's going on underneath the surface so that you've got a solid understanding of the processing and how best to apply it. At the end of this video, you'll be 100% ready to use Ozone 12 to its full potential and give your music the edge with these modern tools. Let's get into it. This is Ozone 12. To add a module, you click here like usual, but you can see there's so many modules now that we've divided them into 3 columns: core, modern, and vintage. First up, meet Stem EQ. Stem EQ is a new module that I'm very pleased to introduce, and I'm going to start with a quick audio demo of it so you can hear it in action, followed by a deeper walkthrough of the tech, workflow, and creative possibilities.
Starts to shift. We're dancing in the sky, and this moment is it. So carry me into the night. Slowly hold me, only you really know me. Hold me, mold me, feel my hips, baby, show me.
Big thanks to the artists Hartwell and Soul Panther for letting us use this song for our demo. Links to their work are below in the description. So Master Rebalance was introduced back in Ozone 9, which allowed you to target adjustments to one stem, but one stem only. There's been a major step forwards here because now you have simultaneous and independent splitting in real time of vocals, bass, drums, and everything else on the other stem. There's also been a ton of improvement in real-time stem separation tech, resulting in a higher fidelity separation, less artifacts, less bleed between stems, and a cleaner overall end result. Let's have a listen. Stem focus up top has also been updated with the new single stem splitting technology. But down here is where all of the new magic happens. On a stem-by-stem basis, you have access to a full static parametric EQ where you can make a lot of adjustments. You can solo each one of the stems, and you can enable and disable the processing. If you want to make an overall level adjustment, you can do that here, and that'll apply to the entire stem. You have the ability to monitor the delta signal that monitors all of your changes, and you have the ability to completely reset the module over here. So you have just a ton of control that you would normally only have if you were in charge of the mix. Let's check out an example workflow. We'll use the same song that I was using before, and I like to start by taking a full heavy section of the song, the chorus or another part of the song where it has all of the elements in that I'm going to want to process as stems. I like to start by using gain match to make sure we're using equal loudness adjustments, and in addition to that vocal treatment that I did, I'm going to add some extra tweaks. This type of high-quality real-time stem separation lets me reach right into the audio, and I can target my adjustments with precision and transparency. It also lets me save mixes that I otherwise might have sent back for revisions, which keeps the momentum in my projects and allows me to keep moving things forwards. Meet bass control. As you can imagine from the name, it's all about dialing in the low end. But this is unlike any other low-end management plugin that I've seen. We're going to take it for a quick spin and then get into all the details that'll let you really max out this module.
When I look at what you say to me, I'm falling into you, but I can't fall too deep. If you're in it for the fame, better go now. When I look at what you say to me, you make a lot of promises that you can't keep. I'm falling into you, but I can't fall too deep. If you're in it for the fame, better go now. When I look at what you say to me, you make a lot of promises that you can't keep. I'm falling into you, but I can't fall too deep. If you're in it for the fame, better go now. You make a lot of promises that you can't keep. I'm falling into you, but I can't fall too deep. If you're in it for the fame, better go now.
Big ups to the artist Shuba for letting us use this song Go Now. You can check her out in the description below. So the backstory to this module is that iZotope has always been hunting for the most important problems to solve. And to do that, they check out things like Reddit threads, Facebook groups, forums. And they've discovered, surprise, surprise, that low-end management is one of the biggest things that people struggle with. And rather than using the traditional approach of using multi-band compressors or limiters that come with all these downsides, they've invented bass control. And honestly, it feels a bit more like couples therapy for the kick and the bass than a plugin. Here's how bass control works. The main display is a bass-focused oscilloscope that shows you what's going on in the low end. The crossover frequency controls the range of the processing, and you can solo it. There's a zoom function. This is super useful if you're dealing with quiet material or if you want more resolution to be able to set the thresholds later on in the process. One of my first questions was, what type of filter is being used for the crossover? It's a hybrid phase crossover that has the perfect reconstruction of a linear phase filter, but significantly less latency and CPU cost, so it's efficient and won't smear phase in the critical bass region. Over on the left, you have balance and punch. Each one of these have a sweet spot meter. Balance shows you how light or heavy your bass is overall, and punch displays how the microdynamics of the low end are hitting. You can adjust each one. Note that being in the middle of the range isn't really the goal, but being in the bounds of the range is. So if you're mastering metal, I'd expect you'd be okay with hovering on the lighter side of the range. And if you're mastering hip-hop, you may be over on the heavier range. On first glance, you might think this is just a transient shaper, but it's not. What's actually happening under the hood is the stem-splitting DSP is separating the drums and letting you adjust the gain of just the low-frequency aspect of them. This is really different than using, say, a multi-band transient shaper, and it allows for clean gain control without affecting transient definition. Check it out. Now, where the serious magic starts to happen is with sustain power. You can drop the threshold into the signal, and where you want to target this is underneath the peak transients of where the drums are hitting, but above the sustain level of the bass. Then you can jack up the meat of the signal with the amount here. This is upwards compression, and you can see how much is happening with this meter right here. Once you get the amount dialed in, you have the ability to adjust character from clean, which is going to be transparent, over to dirty, which will generate harmonics. Then you have peak control. Peak control is a limiter that's designed to contain and control the drum transients. You have an independent threshold, so you can set this independently from anything else that's going on in the processing.
When I look at what you say to me,
Once you get the amount of gain reduction dialed in, you also have a character slider here, with dirty being clipping that introduces harmonics, and clean being more transparent.
if you're in it for the fame, better go now. If you're in it for the fame, better go now. Can't keep a fall.
Now that we've run through the features, let's check it out in a real-world workflow. So I like to put bass control first in chain because it gets everything kind of in the pocket before it gets to gain-sensitive effects that might be downstream of it. It allows me to really tighten up the low end. So I put it first in chain, and I'll typically work with gain match on. So let's check this out.
Go now. Pretending you're in it, but quit when it's tough.
So I'll hit solo to see what frequency range I'm working with and verify that that's the range I want to be processing. Yeah, that sounds good to me. And then this is quite quiet audio material because I've gain staged it down prior to Ozone. So I'm going to jack up the zoom. And the first thing I'm noticing is that the kick is very on top of where the 808's hitting. So I'm going to use sustain power to begin processing in that area. So I'm going to drop the threshold, target below where the kick transients are hitting, but above where the sustained power of the bass is. We're going to jack that up.
I despise any man who got hate in his blood. And as God is my witness, I'm calling you bluff.
Then it's time to adjust the character slider.
But quit when it's tough.
Really pay attention to how the 808 is sounding because I don't always love a lot of dirty saturation on 808s. So here's where we're at. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that at default. Okay, now I'm listening to the kick and I wanna contain the peak level of the kick. So I'm gonna use the peak control for that. Let's drop that down into the signal.
I tried to be sweet, but you make it rough.
And the character of the kick is actually sounding a little bit too clean for me. So I'm going to clip it, which is something that oftentimes works well and is pretty common to hear in hip hop and trap. And I'm actually going to use the punch control to jack up the kick into that threshold.
I despise any man who got hate in his blood. And as God
Then we're going to drop it all the way on the dirty side.
pretending you're in it, but quit when it's tough. I tried to be sweet, but you make it rough. And as God
Nice.
is my witness, I'm calling
There's the
you
processing and kind of how I dial it in. And then as a final step, I would go ahead and use the balance control to be able to adjust the overall weight of the low end and how I want it to sit with the rest of the
Any
song.
man who got hate in his blood. And as God is my witness, I'm calling you bluff. Pretending you're in it, but quit when it's tough. I tried to be sweet, but you make it rough. I despise any man who got hate in his blood. And as God is my witness, I'm calling you bluff.
Meet Unlimiter. iZotope is a company known for its magical data reconstruction with tools like Declip and RX. I've always been floored with how well that works, and it has saved my bacon on more than a few occasions. You can think of Unlimiter like a time machine for audio, except instead of going back to the 80s, it goes back to when your mix still had dynamics. It's the ultimate undo button for crushed audio. How it works is it extrapolates unknown data between two known data points using machine learning. If you're not familiar with smart plugins like this and how they work, I've dropped a link below to Wikipedia that'll explain a bit more about that. But it's basically also known as a neural network, and it's a computational model that's inspired by the structure and function of biological neural networks, i.e. our brains. Let's check out how it works in action. This is a song I mastered back in 2020, and I feel like I got a bit heavy-handed with the limiter. Let's take a listen.
You like the summer wave that I can't take. You like the summer wave I can't escape. And I wanna go back to
So if we change our meters over from RMS and peak to short-term LUFS, you'll see what I'm talking about here.
summer wave.
Pretty hot. I also think I undermixed the vocal, honestly. So I'm gonna pop a quick instance of Stem EQ in here, pop the vocals up by 2 dB. Boom, no need to go back to the mix. Love that. So the workflow with Unlimiter is I like to start by clicking Learn Threshold. Don't I wish I had that button when I picked up a bottle of Jack Daniels for the first time. It'll trigger a 8-second analysis and then drop the threshold down to the sample peak of the audio. You can see here it's negative 0.1. You can adjust this manually, but honestly, the Learn Threshold works really well. And then all you do is you turn it up. Now you'll notice it's adding peak level, and that's why I have the mothership of Ozone gain stage down by 10 dB. It gives me the headroom to be able to do that, and AB by turning Unlimiter on and off. There's a delta signal, and when you listen to this, you'll hear that what it's adding is basically exactly what you'd expect Maximizer to be taking away. Now, as an additional creative possibility, it's interesting to take the threshold and drop it deeper into the audio. And Unlimiter will think that the original audio was limited there. It grabs different things. Check it out. Let's get into the backstory and talk about what's going on under the hood. In order to make Unlimiter, our team took a whole bunch of audio and limited it in a variety of different ways, and then fed that into the neural network so it could learn how to get back to the original by reconstructing the delta. On a technical level, it's working with gain, like a really tight expander. It's not regenerating new transients, it's just expanding what is already there. So for example, if you ran your audio through a super fast limiter or a clipper that generated harmonics but dulled the drums, you could use this to regain some punch to the drums, but you'd also be keeping the harmonics that were added by the limiting or clipping process. There's all of our new modules. I want to let you know that each one of these is available outside of the Ozone mothership as its own plugin, like usual. Now we are far from done. Let's explore the other new features. There's a brand new IRC5 algorithm in Maximizer, and this is different than any previous algorithm because it allows different frequency ranges to be limited independently. Let's check it out in action.
Sing me a song, this is where I belong. Where
So you can hear I've stripped everything down to just the bottom end of the kick and the vocal in this mix. And this is normally where a traditional wideband limiter would struggle. Let's dial in some limiting.
and carry on. Let's get lost.
We'll really crush it here.
Feels so surreal. As
And let's solo the delta signal so we can hear what the limiter's touching.
I belong.
So you can hear in the delta signal that it's grabbing the kick and it's not really touching the vocal. Now let's cycle through the previous algorithms with the delta on, and I want you to listen in really carefully for how much of the vocal it's grabbing in comparison.
Let's get lost together. Feels
Yep, I love that. So much cleaner than the standard wideband limiting algorithms. And in particular, it solves that great problem of being able to contain frequency ranges that need it and to be more transparent with frequency ranges that don't.
where I belong.
What IRC5 is doing is actually much more complex than just applying limiting to different frequency ranges. It's using the IRC3 tech, and what it's doing underneath the hood, IRC3, is it's running 8 different release times all simultaneously. And then it's calculating the distortion that each one of those generates, comparing that with a psychoacoustic model and choosing the version of the release time that is the loudest, but then also has a distortion amount that is tucked under the perceivability threshold of their model, okay? Mind blown. Now you have the different types, right? You have pumping, balance, crisp, and clipping. And what that does is set different ranges, allowable ranges for those release times. So what IRC5 is doing is it's taking that IRC3 tech and it's spreading it into 4 different frequency ranges. I have no idea how it's able to do this without eating my CPU, but it's actually really well optimized. Let's take IRC5 for a spin in a full song. Here's where we are, and now I want to compare IRC5 back-to-back with IRC4 Modern. There's a new custom workflow for the Master Assistant. So if you click over into Assistant View, you'll see there's the one-click auto master that we're all familiar with. That's the existing workflow. And then over on the right, we've got this new custom mode. This is kind of like having a sports car with an automatic transmission that you can flip over into manual mode if you want to get more hands-on. You start by choosing a genre target, and there are tons more targets in here. Note that these targets are also available in the stabilizer module. And just look at all of the granular options. There will be a lot of stuff in there for a lot of people, for example, if you like electronic music, like I do. Now you can heart the genres over here that you want to favorite. Note that I have not hearted country. I have this recurring nightmare that my wife's going to leave me for some guy who drives a truck. We're just not going to go there. You can click up top to filter by just the targets that you have hearted. And in this case, we're dealing with a drum and bass song. There we go. Now, in the center section here, you can choose the type of processing modules that you want applied. So if I don't want master rebalance, I can tick it off. You can also go disable all and enable all. Over on the right, you can tweak your other settings. So for example, drum and bass, -9 LUFS. Let's be honest with ourselves. This is going to be louder. Some drum and bass is insanely loud, but let's just jack up the loudness a bit. You can choose your output level. You can choose the intensity from, hey, we almost did nothing to this at all, to this is a foreign object, heavy-handed. I like to leave it in the middle to start with. And then analysis time. So it does need to analyze the audio, and you can choose a number of seconds, or you can click the sync, and you can now choose a number of bars to analyze the audio with. Once you've got your settings all dialed in, you can actually save exactly how you've left it as default. So let's go ahead and fire this up. I'm going to throw a few different songs from a few different genres in here, and let's check out to see how this new workflow functions. Now let's try a dubstep tune. And finally, let's give it a try with hip-hop.
Kitty city, yeah, kitty, kitty city, yeah, kitty city, yeah, kitty, kitty city, yeah. Used to play in parks, but now I play the lotto. Anywhere I go, from LA to Milano. Kitty city, yeah, kitty, kitty city, yeah, kitty city, yeah, kitty, kitty city, yeah. Used to play in parks, but now I play the lotto. Anywhere I go, from LA to Milano.
Big ups to the artists for letting us demo these songs. The first two were by our team at Warp Academy, and the last one was Kitty City by Marcus Bell, Andy Darling, and Phoenix Red. I always find it interesting to take a look through the modules and the parameter settings that the master assistant's chosen. Sometimes it comes up with a creative direction that I wouldn't have otherwise explored, and it's also very interesting to see what direction it's taking things based on the profiles and the material that it's analyzed. Well, there you have it, folks. All the new features in Ozone 12. I hope you're feeling juiced up and inspired to use it. I know I am. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about all these new features, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Cheers.